What's up, Ronin Renegades, and welcome back. I am Lupine Fiasco, this is Daily FaB Gameplay, and I have an Azalea match for you today. For anyone who is new to the channel, welcome to the Resistance. What we do here is review replays of games that I have played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I will talk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, while explaining my thought process for the lines that I would take, and compare that to the line I did take at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns, with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future, to take down paper events like Battle Hardens, Road to Nationals, or ProQuests, and most importantly, walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. I have a bit of an exciting game for you today. This is the winning Emberblade list from Battle Hardened Hanover. The deck list is available in the video description below if you'd like to check it out for yourself or try it on Talishar. And while you're down there, if you have not already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. A YouTube subscription is free. It's the best way to support me and to make sure you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. But if you'd like to do a little more, the best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you a daily FaB gameplay Discord access. Your name could appear in every DFG video. You could get bonus content every week, and there are even more great benefits to come. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so for those who can afford to support me on Patreon, I truly appreciate it. Let's talk about our sideboard and our game plan. As I said, this is a pure Emberblade list. There are no Kodachis here. This is not Switchblade. Everything is geared towards Emberblade, regardless of which mask we are using. Now against Azalea, we are going to stick with our Pouncing Links. Our Azalea lost the die roll. They will be going first. First or second wouldn't change how we're boarding in this matchup. We want Pouncing Links to win with a big double finisher turn. Ranger doesn't deal arcane damage, so we don't need our Spell Void or our Arcane Barrier. Talking about the 60, the only change we're going to make here is cutting 2 yellow Brand with Cinderclaws to add 2 Command and Conquers. Without Mask of Momentum, we don't need to go super wide on any particular turn, and with Ranger being so reliant on its arsenal, Command and Conquer's value really goes up. So we're cutting the least effective card in our deck and replacing it with a more effective card. Worth noting is that we have 2 Phoenix Flames. One will go into discard, one will stay in the deck. This combos very well with our super wide Art of War or Spreading Flames turns, but it is worth noting against Azalea, you do have the potential to brick and draw a 0 block card when you really need it. The overall game plan here is just racing. Azalea is not an aggro deck in the traditional sense of the word. She goes tall rather than wide, but we are still just trying to deal more damage to her than she can deal to us in a shorter amount of time. To that effect, we have Art of Wars and we have Spreading Flames. We are looking to set up a 5-card hand that involves one or both of them. And the most important card in our deck that will get us there is Warmonger's Diplomacy. If you don't already know, Warmonger's Diplomacy is probably at its best against Azalea. Her deck is built to utilize non-attack actions and attack actions in the same turn, so a well-timed Warmonger's Diplomacy that tucks an Art of War or Spreading Flames into the arsenal will really limit what Azalea can do on her turn to get you to block from hand. At most, she's probably sending an arrow or a Ravenous Rabble and an arrow, looking at anywhere from 8 to 10 damage rather than 14 to 16 with multiple on-hits. So if we can keep our life total high enough, we can take that damage, then crack back for way more than she dealt to us. Now to that effect, we are probably going to need to do more blocking here than we are used to. If Azalea is dominating her arrows, or if she is pumping them up with laces, or beat the glide path, or any of her other buff effects, we're probably going to get more value out of our cards defensively than offensively. This math is especially affected by effects like Remorseless, obviously by Red in the Ledger, which prevents us from doing more than one thing in a turn. So don't be afraid to block with your 2 blocks or your 3 blocks. If you can only do one action in a turn, you're going to get more value out of your hand by blocking with it than sending your biggest attack rather than keeping your entire hand. We are looking for those Warmonger's Diplomacies to take tempo back from Azalea before we crack back with a 5-card hand. So we can go into the game, we can see what that looks like in practice, and hopefully we can all learn a little something here. We draw into what I would not call the best opening hand. The Art of War here is a little clunky, and with the hand as it stands now, we don't have natural go again and the ability to pay for Emberblade. So the fact that Azalea is actually attacking us is really nice. We want to block the Sleep Dart effect anyway. It's early in the game, we can give cards from hand to block the effect, and we keep our fight active. So we're just going to block with our Lava Vein Loyalty and our Lava Burst. Admittedly, losing this Lava Burst early is a little tragic. We would like to keep finishers at least in the deck if we aren't playing them, but we do cover the Sleep Dart damage. We get 2 attacks without natural go again out of our hand, and we draw into a pretty good follow-up, Blaze Headlong and Brand with Cinderclaw. We have a couple options here as far as whether we want to play Art of War this turn or if we want to tuck it into Arsenal and save it for later. I think the best line would actually be to play the Art of War here. We're playing around Seek and Destroy and Lace with Inertia. And our turn is really good. Red Brand, play Art of War. We have 2 resources available for Emberblade if we don't draw any 1 costs. If we do draw 1 costs and they aren't already Draconic, we are making them Draconic to be able to pick up and play our Phoenix Flame. So I probably do want to play a slightly less effective Art of War here just to utilize our entire hand. We don't have a finisher, so ending our turn on a Phoenix Flame is a little underwhelming. We could think about breaking Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, but I don't love doing it if we aren't using an Art of War and with our opponent at full life. The value of Pouncing Lynx goes up the more that we force our opponent to block around it when they get lower on life. So if I'm taking this turn now, I'm playing Art of War and I'm banishing Blaze Headlong. I'm playing it safe. At the time of recording, I choose the opposite line. We just play out the hand without Art of War and Arsenal, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We are either choosing to play around Lace or Seek, or we are forcing our opponent to have it. Our Azalea brought their entire deck, it looks like. That is 65 cards left in deck, 1 card in discard, 5 in hand in arsenal. If they're bringing a stack of 71, it's entirely possible that they just don't have the Lace or the Seek effect. So tucking the arsenal here, I think, makes a lot of sense. I don't hate it. I think it's perfectly reasonable. Now, of course, we do get punished. Our Azalea does have the Lace. What can you do? We made a call and got punished for it, but if that Lace with Inertia is a Lace with Blood Rot or a Lace with Frailty, it easily becomes correct to Arsenal the Art of War. Now, considering the game state, we have a couple of choices. We can block with our entire hand. We can block with 3 cards from hand and attack with the other 1. We do lose this Art of War either way, so what I actually advocate for doing here is playing the Art of War defensively. We can pitch our Brand with Cinderclaw to pay for it. We can banish our Mounting Anger. We draw 2 new cards, At this point, we have the opportunity to choose what we are blocking with. With the 4 cards we have in hand, I like blocking with Mounting Anger, Lava Vein Loyalty, and Brand with Cinderclaw. That covers 7. We take 7, we'll take 2 more from Blood Rot. We get to send a Rising Resentment back at Azalea. Because we get 1 action, we can use it to deal more damage than we would prevent by blocking with Rising Resentment, so I like keeping it. But if we play the Art of War, and we draw into 2 new cards, if they are also 2 blocks, well, now we're blocking for 10. We're blocking with those 2/2 blocks, which block for 3 under Art of War, and our Lava Vein Loyalty, which blocks for 4. So we prevent 3 more damage while still getting to attack for 3. We are losing an Art of War, but it's unlikely that we would get to play this Art of War at all. Notably, Inertia puts a card from Arsenal to the bottom of our deck rather than Seek and Destroy, which destroys it. And because we have Mask and Pouncing links, we do have the opportunity to shuffle our deck. We have Flamecall Awakening, so we can shuffle our deck. So there is an advantage to getting Art of War back into our deck rather than our graveyard, but I think I would rather just prevent an extra 3 damage here and send back the same amount of damage, knowing that we don't get to keep our Art of War either way. We send a Brand gets blocked. The CNC has no on-hit because we don't have an Arsenal, so it's all kind of a wash. We can see that we would have drawn Flamecall Awakening and Phoenix Flame off of that Art of War, so we aren't terribly punished. The Phoenix Flame can't block, so we would still only be able to block 7 with Flamecall Awakening and Lava Vein Loyalty. But what that would have done for us is let us play our Brand with Cinderclaw, then pitch our Phoenix Flame to Flamescale Furnace to get it out of our hand and on the bottom of our deck, which is the best place for second Phoenix Flame to be. We don't want to be results oriented. There is a chance that that first Art of War could have drawn into a second Art of War and a Phoenix Flame, and now we have 2 non-blocks. So there's really no way to guarantee, well, Art of War was absolutely the correct play because this is what we would have drawn. We always would have drawn enough to cover the damage and then some, but at least in this situation, we would have been better served by playing the Art of War. Because, of course, now the problem is we have this Phoenix Flame in our hand, which is one of the worst cards in our deck. We are getting attacked with an 8-power red in the ledger, and we want to play this Warmonger's Diplomacy. So the problem with this Phoenix Flame is it can't block, so we don't have a good way to get rid of it. And because we can't cover the red in the ledger damage, we can't play Phoenix Flame and Warmonger's Diplomacy in the same turn. We want to play Warmongers here. We want to take tempo back from Azalea, who is chaining red in the ledgers together. But if we keep our Flamecall Awakening and our Rabble in hand to put one into the arsenal, we are giving ourselves an intelligence penalty. We would only draw up to 3 cards if we, say, block with Flamecall Awakening, play Warmonger's Diplomacy, and Arsenal Ravenous Rabble. This Phoenix Flame is still stuck in our hand. We can't pitch it to Furnace because Warmonger's is blue, not red. So with all of that being said, the Phoenix Flame here is terrible. It's the worst card in our deck and we never want to draw it. In this situation, we are going to block with Flamecall Awakening and Ravenous Rabble for 4. On our turn, we will play Warmonger's Diplomacy and Arsenal this Phoenix Flame. Phoenix Flame and Arsenal against Azalea is problematic because of red in the ledger. If we get red in the ledger, we only get to do one thing, and on that turn, our thing is probably playing Phoenix Flame for 0 so that we can put a better card into Arsenal. And here, we see not quite the same situation. Remorseless is a lot less punishing than red in the ledger, but we're in a similarly bad spot where what we would really like to do on this turn, on our next turn is Arsenal Warmonger's Diplomacy. We drew into a second one, but because we are still under the effects of war, we can't play it. So we want to tuck it into our arsenal to play on a later turn to set up for Art of War or Spreading Flames, but that means we need to play Phoenix Flame from our arsenal. We will have no Draconic Link on the chain, so Phoenix Flame has no power, but because of Remorseless, we're potentially taking a point of damage to do it. So what I would like to do here is block the Remorseless with Salt the Wound, then on my turn think about playing Phoenix Flame for 0, then E-striking for 7 and arsenaling the Warmonger's Diplomacy, but that's just a little awkward because we're taking a point of damage from the Remorseless. So I think our best line is probably to just do that. We block Remorseless for 3 with Salt. We just deal with the fact that we're taking a point of damage from playing this Phoenix Flame for 0. We could throw a Furnace in front of the Remorseless as well, but I like saving Furnace for something like a Red in the Ledger or a Bolton Shot, something that really says, if this hits, FaB doesn't get a turn. If we use it to block this Remorseless, we're just mitigating damage, and that isn't really what we want armor for in this matchup. So we could block with Salt, we Phoenix Flame, E-Strike, Arsenal, Warmongers. We could also block with Salt and E-Strike to cover all of Remorseless, then on our turn we Phoenix Flame, Ravenous Rabble. So if we do that, if we block the Remorseless for 6, we are really getting 5 points of value, then 6, then 7, then 11. 5 that we prevented from blocking, 2 that we would have taken from the Remorseless effect, and then 4 from Ravenous Rabble. If we block the Remorseless with Salt, we take 2, we're going to take 2 more, and then we're only sending 7 back. So the value really is the same, it's just in one of those situations, we take less damage, which is going to help us when we need to eat a big damage turn from Azalea to be able to Warmonger Spreading Flames. That helps us when we need to take a bunch of damage from Azalea to enable 5-card Art of War Spreading Flames. So I like blocking this for 6. And then on our turn, we send Phoenix Flame, Rabble, Arsenal, Warmongers, and see what happens. Of course, Rain Razor is an option too. That is something that could have happened. So we get the Remorseless effect anyway, and that makes playing this Phoenix Flame even more punishing. We could have taken a little more damage by not blocking the Remorseless to deal a little more damage back. This Ravenous Rabble only comes in for 2 rather than 4. This is really the worst case scenario, but we were in a tough spot because of that Phoenix Flame. Azalea here knocking a... It's going to be Remorseless to the top. I'm checking the graveyard for the Red in the Ledger count, and it looks like Azalea had the option to do it. I'm not sure why she chose not to, but we are getting a Remorseless here. The Remorseless is dominated. So we have a couple choices again. This is a very dynamic matchup. We have a Warmongers in Arsenal. We are 100% playing it. So the question is, what do we want to do alongside of it? In theory, we could take the Remorseless damage. We go to 16. We take 3 more damage on our turn, because what we could do is play Spreading Flames, then Mounting Anger, then pick up and play Phoenix Flame, and then Warmongers. So we would take a total of 11 damage over the turn cycle to return with 9 or potentially 10 damage. That just isn't worth it. So what we'd like to do instead is one of 2 things. We either block with Spreading Flames, then pitch our blue to Mounting Anger Emberblade. We take a total of 7 damage over the turn cycle to return 7 damage on our turn. The other line is block with Spreading Flames, then do nothing. And the reason to do nothing, aside from play Warmongers, is we arsenal our Art of War. We keep a blue in hand, and that means that we are guaranteed to get the best start to an Art of War. Now, I think the best thing to do in this situation is block with Spreading Flames, then on our turn, return fire with 7. You can see me forget that the Remorseless has Dominate. You can also see me take what I think would have been the worst line here, which is to block 7 and Warmongers. I think returning some damage is better, and that's why this line, I don't know, is a little... I don't agree with it. I think that our deck has enough blues in it. We're playing 15 at this point. We've played 2 of them, we've pitched a few, but I think it's likely that we draw into a blue, that we should be looking to get some damage here while we can, to soften up Azalea's life total for when we Warmongers. I also think that Spreading Flames Art of War turns sound appealing in theory, but it's very specific hands that make Spreading Flames better than something like a Brand with Cinderclaw with an Emberblade in there. All of this is to say that we make what I think is a poor choice. Azalea responds with Ravenous Rabble, Ravenous Rabble. We're taking 8 here, which is pretty good damage for an Azalea under Warmongers. But that is all that she's doing. So we get to end her turn at 9, and we're going to see what we can return fire with. We're going to open with Art of War here. We definitely don't need 2 Command and Conquers, and I would like to know at least a little what my turn looks like before I commit to a 1-cost Spreading Flames. So we banish a CNC, we draw into another Art of War, which is pretty cool. At this point, I like opening with Spreading Flames rather than playing second Art of War now. And the reason for that is we know that Azalea has a Sink Below in her hand because she showed it to us. I would like to Spreading Flames for 4 here and let Azalea block it with Sink, then Art of War over the top of it to potentially get a Pouncing Lynx trigger if we want it. Azalea chooses not to block. I make what I think is a mistake, which is to play the second Art of War before giving Azalea the chance to play Sink Below. So she does Sink. I also think based on what we have in our deck, it really doesn't matter. All of our 0 for 3s are going to attack for 5, so the break point gets over the top of Sink. I don't think this is huge value loss if our Azalea chose to wait on the Sink to see if we give her an opportunity to block for exactly 4. But it's the small things that really add up over the course of the game. We draw into an insanely good hand, 3 0-cost reds, which pair very nicely with our 0 floating resources. We also find 2 draconic attacks that are going to let us pick up and play our Phoenix Flame. This is really the best case scenario. And we're not going to break Pouncing Lynx yet. We are at a point in the game where we can wait to see if we get more value by breaking Lynx for Lava Burst or Salt the Wound. The threat of waiting is that Azalea might have a Tar Pit trap that covers the damage from one of our attacks. The Tar Pit trap effect then means we need to hit a second time to clear the effect and hit a third time to trigger Pouncing Lynx. But I think waiting is totally fine. We're choosing not to break Pouncing Lynx here because of the Spreading Flames effect. Normally, if we have 3 hits on a chain, Salt the Wound deals equivalent damage to Lava Burst and is better to break Pouncing Lynx for Salt, because late game Salts are worse than late game Lava Bursts when our opponents are blocking. Lava Burst is unconditional 5 if we get to Chain Link 4, but because of Spreading Flames, our Lava Burst deals 1 more point of damage compared to its normal Rupture effect. So once we determine that we have 4 hits on the chain, Salt becomes equivalent to Lava Burst and we break Pouncing Lynx for Salt. Azalea takes a bunch of damage, goes to 2. We draw into a very good hand to close out the game. Second Spreading Flames here with a blue Draconic 1 power attack. is great value as long as we don't need to block whatever Azalea is going to do. And it looks like we don't. Drill Shot here for 4 would put us to 5. There is nothing that Azalea can do that would deal 5 more damage off of 1 card in hand. The most damage she could have with this 1 card and 2 floating resources is Razor Reflex. That would put us to 2, but Azalea doesn't have a follow-up. So we can block this Drill Shot with Flamescale Furnace just to get our value out of Furnace. We're not going to cover all of the damage of Drill Shot, because of Crow's Nest, Drill Shot has an aim counter, which means that it has piercing 1, so the power does go up, but it's still more value to block with our Furnace and get our 2 points of value from the front half of it, rather than lose our 2 points of value from Furnace by letting Azalea put a Battle Worn counter on it. Starting with our Spreading Flames, following with Emberblade, there is no way to cheat out a Phoenix Flame here to try and get the Emberblade up to 4 power, so we'll just attack with it. Our Lava Vein Loyalty comes in for 2 because of Spreading Flames. Azalea gives us 1 point of block, but she's still at 1. This Phoenix Flame is going to come for 3 because of Spreading Flames and Shuko. Azalea gives us a card from hand, and we come for 6 with this Spreading Flames Lava Burst. Azalea has a 2 block in hand, apparently no Sink Below in Arsenal, so we pick up the win. It would be very easy to look at this game and say we won off of Warmonger's Diplomacy and the Art of War, and you would be exactly right, because we got very lucky and we drew very well. But that is this matchup. That is what FaB does against Azalea. That's how we set this up. We could play a bunch of defense reactions, but think about that Lace, 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 Red in the Ledger turn. That was a 14 power Red in the Ledger with multiple on-hits. There is no combination of defense reactions that easily covers that damage and lets us have a turn after it. Let's say that we had a Reinforce the Line in Arsenal and a Sink Below in hand. That covers 8. We put a 3 block in there as well. That's 11. Now we still need 3 more block value to stop the Red in the Ledger effect. So it's, another 3 block from our hand, or 2 pieces of armor. And let's say we block with 2 3 blocks from hand and 2 defense reactions. Sure, we covered 14, but we have 1 card left in our hand. And what is that doing to pressure Azalea? We can't play against Azalea like we play against Bravo. And if we did, would we have to cut Art of Wars because we have 6 defense reactions in our deck and our chance of drawing 1 or 2 defense reactions from an Art of War goes up? That isn't going to win a game either. I fully believe that the best way to play this matchup is to cut the defense reactions, set up an Art of War, and try to go very tall and very wide on a turn if we make it that long. And we are counting on lucky Art of War and Warmonger's Diplomacy draws to get us there. And that's just the nature of the matchup. So if you have other thoughts on the matchup, if you disagree, if you think there's a different way to approach it, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear alternate strategies, because as it is, the strategy feels like just high roll them. But I do hope you enjoyed this game. I do hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed seeing a full Emberblade deck. It's been a while since I played one, and I know a lot of people like that style of play. If you did like this game and if you learned something, head jab that like button for me. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. And I will be back tomorrow, hopefully with a tournament report from this last weekend, possibly with more gameplay. I will be sharing details about the Battle Hardened soon, if not tomorrow. But until then, have a great rest of your day and take care.